Hello, and welcome to Stuart Saturday Live, Season 2, Episode 8, our August show. I'm your hostess, Andrea Zuvich, the 17th century lady, and I'm delighted to have the pleasure of your company today. And in a few minutes, I'll have my friend, historian Mark Turnbull, here to chat with us about Prince Rupert of the Rhine and more. But first, I went back to Worcester last week as I had a talk on Thursday. Early last month, I went to Worcester for the first time for the Stuart History Festival, but sadly, I didn't have a chance to even look inside the cathedral, which is adjacent to the old palace. So I'm so glad I was able to have a look around because it is absolutely glorious. So if you haven't gone, you really should try to go to have a visit at Worcester. I can't believe I never visited before. There's an incredible crypt, and this wall here is full of 17th century monuments, and it's just beautiful. And there's also the tomb of King John, Prince Arthur Tudor. Yes, that's Henry VIII's older brother. Cloisters and much more. The best part was that it's dog friendly. So my dear Bertie, who is pictured here on the right, he was allowed in most places. The staff were so welcoming and even gave us a map showing the places the very few places he was not allowed. It was excellent, especially as it was quite hot outside for doggies, and Bertie really enjoyed being inside in the cool while we indulged in our history and culture. It was lovely. And so I hope you had a chance to look at some of those images. I thought it was beautiful inside. I would like to thank everyone who came to my talk about Barbara Villas for the Battle of Worcester Society. The staff were wonderfully helpful and supportive, and the audience was lovely and had excellent questions. I know some people traveled some distance to attend, and I'm really grateful for that, especially Vivian Derricut, whose beautiful floral arrangement is on the table behind me. And over a week on, it's still giving me a lovely sight to behold and filling my office with a gorgeous scent. So thank you for that. Well then, my guest today is Mark Turnbull, whose interest in the Stuart period was piqued at the age of 10 during a visit to Helmsley Castle in North Yorkshire. In time, his interest led him to a period of battle reenactment with the sealed knot. Now he brings this period to life through writing books, both fiction and nonfiction, and articles for magazines and newspapers. He is one of the co-founders with Dr. Erica Canella and me of the Stuart History Festival. We believe it's the first ever festival dedicated exclusively to Stuart history. He also produces a popular podcast dedicated to the period called Cavalier Cast, The Civil War in Words. He is also a regional chair of the Battlefields Trust and also an associate fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Joining us live from County Durham, England, please welcome Mark Turnbull.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Mark. So nice to have you back on the show.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me back to the salon.
It's great to have you. But I have to say, as I mentioned earlier in our messages to Erica, it is funny to just talk to you again after months of being on Zoom calls and whatnot with the three of us as we were preparing all the doing all the organization for the Stuart History Festival.
Yeah.
There we are.
There's our third musketeer there, isn't it?
Yes, it's not the same without her here, but she'll be on the show in 2 months, so that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so here you are. You were doing your wonderful speech, your talk about Prince Rupert of the Rhine, and you were introduced by the wonderful J.D. Davies. So, what was it like for you to be able to give your talk in such a beautiful historic place in Worcester?
Oh, amazing, amazing. I mean, not just the location, to actually be part of a festival that is just solely dedicated to explore in every aspect, or as many aspects as we could of the Stuart
Yeah.
age. It was just fantastic. and just the buzz, the excitement of the attendees. Yeah, wonderful. And working with you and Erica as well,
Yeah,
and all
it
the
was great.
partners. And yeah,
Yeah, it was really an amazing learning experience, I think.
mm,
Yeah, a very positive and rewarding experience. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so last time we we were together was about it was season one, and we had a chat about Charles I, the subject of your previous book, which I have here. Yes, very good book. And so this was Charles I's Private Life by Mark Turnbull. Um, so we had a chat about that, but now you're back to talk about his nephew, aren't you? Um,
I am. Yeah.
what, yeah, what about him and his life made you want to write a biography?
Well, I think after writing that biography of Charles the First, and then looking at the events, especially the civil wars from Charles's view, there were naturally a lot of crossovers with Rupert. So it was really
Mhm.
enlightening to examine the differences in their approaches, their experiences, their opinions. And it just helped me feel as though I could better understand the complexities of the Royalist war effort.
Right.
That's on the one side. But there was just so many contributions that Rupert made to that 17th century, art, science, engineering, medicine, military, politics. And I knew that that would make his story such a multifaceted work. And it's nearly 20 years since the last biography. So I thought, let's have a challenge of finding out some new information and get back to the archives.
I love that, and yes, of course. Some people remember the previous work. I believe it's Charles Spencer's work, which is fantastic. But it's wonderful. I've been reading your book, and it's so great to see it through new eyes. It's refreshing, and you've brought other things to the table, and I think that it's it's wonderful and thrilling. And
Oh,
good
thank you.
grief, why isn't this man's life more more well known? And Hollywood, again, we've said this before, but this man had everything in his life, didn't he? Absolutely everything.
Absolutely. What a subject on stage and screen, eh?
Yes.
He should be
And
there.
he wasn't an ugly man either. So there's that as well. But he had quite a few nicknames, didn't he? What were some of them?
Oh, yeah, loads, loads. So,
Loads.
Prince Robert, Duke of Plunderland, Diabolical Cavalier.
Dear.
Uh, yeah, it goes on and on. Mars of the Malignants.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Yeah. I, I thought it was quite astonishing, the list that you had, um, of all these nicknames, and it never occurred to me about how many how many he was given. Well, it's funny because he was such a figure. He was almost seen as a sort of supernatural entity by some, especially his dog. Could you tell me about his dog Boy, please?
Boy, I think he's almost as famous as Rupert, or infamous as,
Yeah.
as Rupert. And I loved at the at Worcester during
Uh,
the talk that Bertie was there as well. Bertie was present during the Prince Rupert talk. That was
yeah.
brilliant. Talking about Boy.
Yeah. That was great. I think he really enjoyed listening to a story about the dog, a famous dog.
Yeah, Boy. I mean, so sort of magical, superstitious. So I mean, on the one hand, Rupert trained Boy. So Boy was with him from his captivity pre-Civil War. Joined,
Mhm.
went to England with Rupert um, through the Civil War till 1644, and Rupert taught him tricks. So to sit up and beg when somebody said Charles, to cock his leg when somebody said Pym or John Pym, after the Parliament leader. So there's that angle. But this is a constant companion. He's not this sort of fluffy poodle though of Tim Dalton Cromwell film where Rupert's riding
No.
around with Boy under his arm.
Yeah.
Um, and he's that. he's almost talisman-like for Rupert. So people, the parliamentarians, fear Boy. They think that he's got all sorts of sort of powers and things that he could, do all sorts of things like make uh, Rupert bulletproof. The dog catches bullets in his teeth. He can,
Wow.
infiltrate spies. Morph into a human form. So there's elements of mockery where the royalists take it to far degrees. They play on these claims, but there's definitely elements of belief in the parliamentarian side who are trying to make sense of the terrible turmoil and destruction of war, that this dog could be responsible for a lot of it.
Wow. And so, what are some of the biggest myths about Rupert?
So many, and I must add, in his favour and
Mhm.
not. So that there's Rupert's courageous part in the Battle of Lothal. So 1638, Rupert's
Mhm.
18, his first pitched battle. And the propaganda around that has trumpeted Rupert's sort of glory and his part there, but it's entirely overshadowed Rupert's feelings in that battle. Another one, if we fast forward to 1642, Port Bridge, this myth that Rupert's lying in a field next to Port Bridge. He's surprised by the enemy, mounts up without armor, gallops into battle without looking back to see if anyone follows him, and that is wrong. It's wrong. That Clarendon version. The
Uh,
truth is actually that he put together a synchronized and brilliant plan to lure the enemy into a trap and to do battle with them.
oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah.
Going to
So,
Master Moore, there's more. So
yeah.
this
Well,
infamous letter.
yeah. What infamous letter?
So this is the letter that Charles I wrote to Rupert on the eve of Master Moore, when
Ah.
Rupert took it as an order to fight, and it's
Mhm.
been said that he kept it on his person till his dying day. That's another myth.
Well, there's a lot of sort of mythology that's spread up about him, sort of a romanticized idea about him, I think, um, especially perhaps to those who are more inclined to be favorable towards the Cavaliers, perhaps. Um, so yeah, there's a lot, and I
With
just
the
think it's
ladies as well.
yes, yes. I
Lady
remember
Catherine
a
Parr.
few years ago, I wrote a blog post, and it turned into people started getting quite upset at one point. And some said, oh no, he was too serious to ever have a love life, that sort of thing. And the fact of the matter that was that he did indeed fall in love, perhaps not as frequently as Charles II, but he certainly did have his share of loves, and I think you'll talk about that in a bit. Um, but going back to his uncle Charles I, what kind of relationship did they have, and how did that evolve over time? I mean, here's this painting. It's the eve of the Battle of Edge Hill,
Mm.
1642, and this was created by Charles Landseer uh, some time later. I think Landseer died in 1879, and this painting is now in the Walker Art Gallery. Um, so let's think about Charles I and Prince Rupert, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, where did it start? I mean, if we go back to 1633, Rupert's
Hmm.
13. He's just lost his father at the end of the previous year. Then we've got his idol, Gustavus II Adolphus, King of Sweden,
Mm.
who was killed in battle. And Rupert and his family, they follow Gustavus's every move. He's their Swedish savior. And Rupert's recorded as being in floods of tears at Gustavus's death. So this double death at this time of his father and of Gustavus,
Mhm.
left the family really reliant on Charles I for, entire subsistence. And there's a lovely letter in the National Archives from January 33 that Rupert writes Charles. And I think this is when Rupert finds his new idol, because he writes to Charles and he says, he desires nothing more than to grow up for your majesty's service and live by the king's bounty. So,
Mm.
Charles becomes, the uncle becomes the focus of Rupert's chivalric core, and this distant father figure. Rupert really respects and admires the king from afar. And they're very similar in character. They love physical exercise. They're both full of energy, full of optimism. They really enjoy each other's company. But I think in terms of his relationship, that develops greatly in the Civil War, because Rupert is maturing, he's gaining military experience, and they now have a professional relationship. It's king and commander, and that's the relationship that takes precedence. And when you couple the intense strains and the stresses of that period, that really does take its toll. Um, but even though there are some laws, this basic love and devotion that they both have, that never falters. And I quote as an example a lovely letter of the 4th of August 1645. So the royalist cause is really flagging after Naseby. And
Right.
Charles first, he writes, "It will be a long time before I see you. I earnestly desire you to have an implicit faith in my friendship and affection. I hold myself bound to protect you as one of my children." I just think that says it all.
Yeah, that's lovely. Really lovely. Um, he might have even looked upon him as a father figure, as you mentioned. He lost his father. So let's go back and talk about Rupert's parents, Elizabeth Stuart, also known as Elizabeth of Bohemia, also the Winter Queen, and his dad, Frederick V. And these two portraits are from the workshop of Michael Jans van Miereveld. Um, these are very interesting historical figures in and of themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
And yeah, next month our guests will be talking about them. So, could you give us a brief summary of these two and what kind of parents they were to their large family, please?
I mean, the first thing to say about Elizabeth and Frederick is that they were genuinely in love with each other. And that's a very big thing when it comes to political alliances, but also the marriage and children. Because
Mhm.
the 13 children, the Elizabeth. It's often said that Elizabeth preferred her animals, her dogs and monkeys, rather than the children. But she did passionately support her children. So that's not entirely true. Yes, she loved animals. But I mean,
Mhm.
Rupert, for me, Rupert is a mirror image of his mother. He's got her charisma, he's got a strength of
Mhm.
character, he's got a strong and robust health. But I think he has his father's very chivalric core. I think that comes more
Yeah.
from his father. And yeah, the two of these went through terrible times from the point when Frederick accepted the throne of Bohemia, which sparked war in Europe with the Holy Roman Emperor.
Mm.
And that saw them ousted. They lost everything, and they were in exile together with their family in the Netherlands, in Holland after that. So, yeah, and tragically lost Frederick in 1632 at such a young age. So,
Um, they
glamorous couple.
knew, yes, very, um, and that sort of tragic, romantic, um, sort of they exuded a sort of tragic romance, I suppose.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and was their eldest boy is the one who had there was some kind of terrible accident, wasn't there?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Frederick Henry, the eldest, he drowned when him and his father were going to visit uh, a captured Spanish fleet. So the Dutch had captured a treasure fleet.
Hmm.
They were going along to view it, and it was bad weather, and the public ferry overturned, and unfortunately Frederick Henry, the young boy, was lost. And it's said that his father never got over that, and Frederick
Mm,
wasn't the most robust of, of of people. So a tragedy.
right. Wow, that's awful. So how many siblings did Rupert have?
There were 12, so 13 including him.
Yeah. Wow. And we often hear about his closeness to his brother Morris, whose portrait we have here. Would you tell us more about their relationship, please?
Yeah, well, I think if you've asked about Frederick Henry there, I think that you're looking at the brothers are educated separate to the sisters for once. Rupert, he's
Okay.
mostly with his brothers. The
Okay.
eldest one, Frederick Henry,
Hmm.
drowned. Next oldest is Charles Louis. Now, Charles Louis, very doer, not exactly the life of the party, very serious,
Mm,
bit different to Rupert. Definitely, he's not as keen on sort of athletic pursuits as Rupert. So I think for me, from an early age, there's Rupert with his brother Morris. I think they were kindred spirits more so than his his elder brothers were. Uh,
mhm.
so yeah, I think that's where it started. I think they're very close in age. You're talking about a year apart. Rupert's
Wow.
December 1619,
Yeah.
and Morris's January 1621.
Mm. Well, they seem to have had many epic adventures together, and they generally got on very well. Um, and they fought in the English or British Civil Wars, didn't they?
They did, yeah. That's right. So they had a lot of,
Mhm.
they shared a lot of time together in a lot of difficult and desperate times.
Mhm.
And Morris
And
backed Rupert up. Morris was the one that Rupert could trust in the civil wars.
um, right, and that's why following the Civil Wars, they went into privateering. Is that correct? And they ended
Yeah.
up going to the Caribbean. And and could you tell us what fate awaited young Morris there?
Yeah, I mean this epic adventure. Rupert starts in late 1648 with a small element of the Royal Navy that defects to the Royalists. Rupert's
Mhm.
put in charge. He gets these ships ready. He gets men recruited, supplies. They go from Holland to Southern Ireland, Kinsale. They sail down to Portugal. They're into the Mediterranean, the Azores, and eventually the decision is taken to go to the West Indies. But during that time, it's a desperate situation. Rupert's got life and death decisions every day. It's hand to mouth. And there's times when, Rupert's ship is separated from the small fleet, and Morris thinks he's lost Rupert. So,
Um,
he thinks it's the other way around to what actually happens. And then Rupert turns up and they are reunited. And then there's other times when Morris's ship is separated and Rupert finds them again. So when Morris is lost in a storm in the West Indies, at first it's disbelief on Rupert's part. He thinks that Morris will come through, that he survived. And as time goes on, the news and the details filtering in are just not positive. There's no sign of Morris, and he absolutely he's gone. There's pipe staves that are washed up on a beach, for example, with MP Morris Princeps, and
mm,
it's clear that the ship's gone down.
wow, that's just so awful. So he's he's in a very Rupert's in a really difficult position at this point, wasn't he? He with all the terrible events of the wars, and now, of course, he'd lost a few of his family members, and now to lose his best friend, pretty much, and brother,
Yeah.
it was a terrible blow for him, I'd imagine. And I believe that his mother also wouldn't accept Morris's fate either for some years.
That's right. I think as the years went by, that there was belief, perhaps that he was imprisoned in a Spanish jail,
Mm.
or that he was captured by pirates and he was still alive. But I think that the family eventually had to, start thinking the worst and realize that, the stories might still come in, but the evidence is not pointing to any survival. There's no,
Yeah,
for example, there's no ransom or anything like that. There's nobody approaching them.
right. Oh, very sad. Um, but let's move on now to their sister, Louise. Would you please tell us about her? And we have this beautiful portrait here. I wonder if you could tell us more about this, please.
Yeah, it is a beautiful portrait, isn't it? I love that one of Louise, and it's slightly different because obviously she did self-portrait as well. She was an excellent artist. Her and Rupert were compared as the artists of the siblings, and Louise was very unconventional. So the siblings used to tease her that she did her hair with her paintbrushes, for example, because she didn't particularly take a lot of care on her appearances. She was much preferable to sort of getting stuck into artwork. Um, and I think there's a similarity between the two. She looked a lot like Rupert as well,
Yeah,
physically.
I can see that here. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's good. Mhm.
and it said a lot of her work as well. Gerrit van Honthorst, uh, he would pass her work off as his to help raise money for the family. She was very good, so good.
Wow. Yeah, and yes, in your book you also show some of Rupert's mezzotints. So it's clear that this family had a lot of talent for a variety of things. Um, but I I like this one. I think it's what is this 16? I'm wondering about the date.
1650s, I
16.
think.
Yeah,
Late
that
or
hairstyle.
late 40s, maybe.
Well, it's lovely. So even if she did that with her paintbrushes, it looks great.
Yes, well, that's it. Yeah, she's clearly sat for this one.
Yes. Um, oh, okay.
But then the
So,
scandal with Louise.
oh
The
yes, do
scandal.
tell us about the scandal. We're here for scandal.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of rumors that she's had illegitimate children. So I think there
Oh,
was at least two rumors, and then she's almost the last child left with Elizabeth, Rupert's mother, and she up sticks in the middle of the night and flees, and she leaves a letter explaining why she's done it, and she converts. Now this conversion for Elizabeth of Bohemia, of any of her children, is unforgivable, and Louise becomes a Catholic. And even a lot of the siblings, they distance themselves from Louise. She really only keeps in touch with the other sibling, Edward, who converts as well. And she eventually ends up in France. So there's a lot of debate on why did she leave. Um, was there a pregnancy? Was there anything else? Was there a heartbreak? That she's been linked with the Marks of Montrose. Um,
oh.
and I've kind of stuck a one in the book there about linking it to George Goring as well, which hasn't been said
Oh,
before, but
it's interesting.
yeah, there's a couple of coincidences there which I think warrants looking at. Why did she leave at that point? Not long after George Goring had died in Madrid after converting to Catholicism. So,
Hmm. Yeah, very interesting. Oh, I wonder. There are all these. There are so many of these what ifs, and if only we could find more evidence
I know.
sometime, and then that would be brilliant. Oh. Oh, speaking of what if or did they not? The next lady here is Frances Bard. Now, uh, she's beautiful, and I've often thought that from this painting, I thought, wow, she's stunning. Um, can you tell us about her and what is so scandalous about her? Hmm?
Well, she's the daughter of Sir Henry Bard, who later, in the Civil War years, becomes Count Bellamont. And Henry Bard, he's ruthless. He's a fearsome soldier. He's very much one of Rupert's circle. And there's no certainty on when Francis was born, but it's thought around the Civil War years, so mid 1640s.
Mm.
And Henry Bard, he's very courageous. He loses a limb, and he's charging into Leicester uh, just at the eve of Nearsby. And she's now Henry Bard. He gets sent on a diplomatic mission to Persia, and he dies near Agra, um,
Mhm.
in a sandstorm, and it leaves the family impoverished. So you have there's not much known of what happened to the family from Henry's death to the Restoration, and then how she became uh, known or perhaps met again Rupert. But her mother, Francis's mother, is petitioning Charles II at the Restoration. She's saying that
Mhm.
they are impoverished. Her son is the King Charles II's godson. He might have to go into prison for debts. And so they're really on rock bottom, the family, this courageous royalist family. So, some hint that Rupert took pity on them, tried to help them. Perhaps that's how he was acquainted with Francis in around 1664. And the scandal, the scandal, so you asked about that. This comes from this persistent rumor that Rupert married Francis.
Mhm.
So when that's did they, didn't they? Is it true? Is it
Yeah.
false? I've got a
Yeah.
theory.
Oh, yeah. I haven't got up to that bit yet.
Sure, jump the gun.
Wow. Um, so what do you think you can tell us a little bit, or should we save that
Yeah,
for the book?
no, no, no. I'm happy to share. I mean, personally, I don't think that they were married. So
Mhm.
it's a couple of reasons why. The whole claim, it doesn't surface, it doesn't do the rounds until after Rupert's death. So it's approximately
Ah,
15 years after the two of them split up. Um,
okay.
I think now Frances, she's an ardent Catholic. She's an ardent Jacobite, and she attaches herself to Rupert's sister, Sophia, in Hanover.
Mhm.
So these rumors arise around 1690 when she's with Sophia. And I think that she's very careful. Frances is very careful with this marriage allegation because this is after her and Rupert's son is dead. Now,
Mm.
Dudley was killed at Buda in 1686. So, if she raises this when Dudley's alive, of course, this puts Dudley in the line of succession. So, it's a very
Mm.
serious allegation to make.
Right.
But the fact that it's coming around, after Dudley's death, long after Rupert's death, you see Francis using the claim to extract arrears of payment from the emperor. So Rupert's arrears of payment. She uses this claim of marriage to get a pension from the emperor.
Mm.
I think it's very much uh, a way of securing herself. She's been through poverty. She doesn't want to go back there. She can't inherit the house that Rupert gave Dudley because it doesn't get bequeathed to Dudley's mother. You know, and
Yeah.
Dudley has no heirs. So she's really back on rock bottom. She's with Sophia, and she never acknowledges herself as the Dowager Duchess of Cumberland. That's another thing that
Ah, okay.
English diplomats say. If it's true, why does she call herself Lady Bellamont? She's really the Dowager Duchess of Cumberland.
Wow. Well, that all makes sense. Because if a lady was in financial circumstances that were difficult, she would do whatever she had to do to try to live. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a very, very difficult situation for many women. Um, so, wow, yeah, I think that's a totally plausible suggestion there. Yeah.
You've,
Wow.
I mean, the other thing you've got is this marriage certificate, supposedly, and that
Mm.
comes to light in the late 19th century. Coincidentally, it's when Eva Scott publishes her biography of Prince Rupert.
Mhm.
A descendant of Francis's suddenly finds this certificate, and it comes to light around the same time. And it's
Mm.
a funny document. It's almost like a retrospective affidavit of this minister who claims to have married the two of them.
Mm.
But it's not very clear. It's not clear if he married them in 1664 or if that's the date of the document. He says they were married at Petersham Church in Surrey. Well, there's no record of this man being minister at that point.
Mm.
So it's very
That's a
iffy.
bit dodgy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they would have had better records usually for such things. Um, wow. It's all very intriguing, I have to say.
It is, and then to make it worse as well. So after Francis's death, her descendants go on to inscribe this claim. They etch it into a tombstone in this church in Hertfordshire, and they call her on this tombstone Princess Rupert. Can you believe it?
Oh, wow. And I saw that you have posted this image, I think, and it's sort of scratched out a bit at the same time. So
Yeah,
there are people
exactly.
who support it and don't. So like many things,
Yeah.
but it's oh yeah. I guess we'll never really know. But there was another lady in Rupert's life, Margaret Hughes, who was one of the first actresses as women were allowed to tread the boards following the Restoration. The Stuarts were really into theatre, weren't they? And it's no surprise that some of these beautiful and talented women attracted not only praise for their acting skills, but in their in themselves. Um, many of these ladies became mistresses of the rich and powerful in Stuart society. So let's talk about Margaret. What do we know about her and her relationship with Prince Rupert?
Well, I think like a lot of the ladies associated with Rupert, and a lot of ladies in general, there's often not much known or not much in print, certainly. But
Mm-hmm.
their relationship, it lasts 13 years. It's the longest relationship Rupert has, and these ladies are all called mistresses, which I've deliberately avoided in the book because it's so demeaning to them and their role and their influence. You know, Margaret Hughes, Peg Hughes, I would say, is Rupert's life partner, if ever he has one.
Mm-hmm.
She's a
Right.
wife in all but ceremony. Um, she's with him until his death. They have a daughter together, Ruperta. She takes care of him in his older years. Um, but he really trusts Peg with everything. He trusts her with his politics. He trusts her with his family affairs. They work together for a match, a royal match within the family. They try and pitch Rupert's nephew, George, the future George I, with Rupert's cousin's daughter, so James, Duke of York's second daughter, Anne. They want to match the two of them and bring these branches of the family together. It doesn't happen. Anne's not very enamored with George. But, Peg is writing to George. She's writing to Sophia. She is receiving letters from George to her, telling her how grateful he is for all of the advice. They both host George when he visits England. And she's got Irish heritage. Now that's a new detail that came out of the archives.
Oh,
Now,
really? I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, we had no insight into her background, but this is this document that uh, just at the end of Rupert's life, there's a request to an Irish peer to research Peg's family background and her heritage. And he comes back and writes to her to say that she's related to the O'Hughes, and he knows distant relatives of her family in Ireland. So I mean that was so exciting to find that bit of background out.
Yeah. Oh, I love it when you find something and it just makes things, it just fleshes it out even more. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks. Um, so what do you think is Rupert's legacy?
Oh well, I, if I divide it into a couple of parts, I think he inspires so much interest.
Mhm,
There are still people that's drawn to his character, his deeds, his talents, and by that drawn to his era, this period of
mhm,
history. But I think he left his mark in art, science. You know, his Prince Rupert's drops, these glass tadpole-like drops. They are the principles that we see in car windscreens. There's his cast iron cannons and everything that
mhm.
he tried to give the three kingdoms a wartime advantage. But I think his key, his legacy, I think, has to be the support that he gave Charles II in helping keep a stable government. Um, because Rupert, he's blunt, he's honest, he's courageous, he's a Protestant. This Protestant influence in command of the Royal Navy, I think, helped reassure everybody that perhaps mistrusted Charles II and the Duke of York. And
Mm.
he reassured elements of the opposition while loyally standing up for the king and the crown and kingdoms.
Yeah. Well, I think that's bang on. Yeah, I agree with everything you've said.
Great.
Yeah.
There's,
Um,
I'm pleased. I mean, there's so much, isn't there, that
there's so much. Yes.
the legacy.
Um, yes, and I think those cannons, weren't they called Rupertinos? I think they tested them out on the Cleveland yacht first. I think that was,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
because it was Barbara's yacht that they put it on um, at first. That was the
Oh,
the
isn't that
test.
excellent?
Yeah, everything's connected. I like that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
um, so you write both nonfiction and fiction. Do you enjoy writing one more than the other, or is there, or do you find both um, both to your liking?
Um, I really love nonfiction, and that's probably because the last two are nonfiction biographies. I love the
Mhm.
research element as well, but I do miss non fiction. I do miss it, and so I think now that I've done both, I can now answer that properly and say I do enjoy both for very different reasons.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Um, and one of your most recent publications is a fiction, and it's in an anthology called The Ring. And I think this is a very interesting work because you contributed a short story to it along with other authors, and the proceeds go to the Reading Agency, which is a charity registered in England and Wales, which promotes the benefits of reading among children and adults in the UK. I think that's great. Could you tell us a bit about the anthology and your contribution in it?
Yeah, I mean, it as you say, there's so many great authors that have come together, and we track this item, the ring, through history, and it goes through different historical periods, and it affects the lives of all the different characters through these periods. And mine is in the 1650s, during royalist exile, and Prince Rupert's in it, and it
Yay!
crops up. Rupert ends up unwittingly getting his hands on this ring and tries to reunite it with the rightful owner. And yeah, there's there's no pattern to it, so you can't say that it's bad luck. You can't say that it's good luck. It tends to be more bad
Oh,
luck, the ring, but
well, it sounds amazing. I'll definitely have to give that a read, especially as it's for such a good cause too. So, yeah, well done with everything you've been doing. You've been
thank
on, you've been, knocking it out of the park recently with everything, all of your. I mean, it's incredible. You've done so well this year.
As of you, you know, it's been an excellent, and especially July, hasn't it? It's just been an excellent July.
July has been pretty busy. Yes, for both of us. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Um, and I was just wondering, when you do your writing, whatever it is, whatever genre, do you tend to listen to something, or do you need quiet?
Um, for non-fiction, I've found that I don't listen to anything,
Mhm.
strangely. So with fiction, I do. I do like to listen to music for fiction. Um, but yeah, anything 17. I try and do 17th century. You know, so I like the city waits, for example. You know, the
Oh, they're fantastic. Yes. I, I like Passo Mezzo. I have them
yes.
on a lot. Um, but yeah, I find that I have a crazy work schedule where I work at night. Yeah, I was often writing to Mark and Erica at like 3 in the morning. Hi, I just thought about this. um, and I find that when I'm really in the zone, I can't have anything on, no sound. So that's why in the still of the night, it's
Mm.
perfect. But I totally get what you mean when you say you could write fiction with music. I find it can inspire you. It could it can motivate you. Um, at least that's how I find it. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I've been asking people this a lot when they come on the show, and I like to know how people do their research. And I was wondering, what is your favorite archives? Because you've been to loads of archives for your Rupert work, and I was wondering if there was one in particular which you thought, wow, this is a great place, and you just found it useful.
Um, oh, it's hard, isn't it? Because some of them I've only been to once. Some of them I've sort of mined uh, so much. I mean, the British Library. I mean, I do like. It was before I went before the just before the issues that they had.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was a new experience. I'd been at the National Archives before,
Hmm.
um, for Charles. But I mean,
Yeah.
the Kent archives, you know, the great great amount of detail that came out of family letters there. So yeah, it's finding this sort of treasure trove of sort of personal letters, isn't it? Um,
Yes.
and not always just public declarations. But do you mean physically which archives were
Yeah,
with
I mean, where
this?
you have to go and you look through the documents in person, and
I mean, Lambeth Palace Library is beautiful. I mean, that's
all right.
been redone, but it's, you know, it's got so much natural light coming in through the windows.
Wow. Yeah, I've not gone to that one. Um, I did like Westminster Abbey,
Oh
the
wow,
Monuments
yeah.
Room. That was good. Um, and it was so good to verify, because there's a lot for my thing. People were saying that Barbara was born in 1641, and it was great to go and talk to the curator there, and they were able to say, no, it's in this 1640. So that was great. It
Oh
was
nice.
concrete, and I was able to set that straight. So I just find that wonderful when you're in the zone, and there's this, I love going to National Archives as well. And it's just, you're surrounded by people who are also interested in similar things. They're researching, they're searching for answers to the questions they have about any given topic. And I just think it's wonderful. And I'm so glad that we have them available to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah. I was wondering next, um, I don't know if I asked you last time, um, if you had a Stuart fantasy dinner, who would you invite? What would you serve? And who would you sit next to? So even if I did ask
Mm.
you that before, you can change it.
I am going to change it. Yeah, I am going to change it.
Okay,
So I
let's
think
hear it.
for definite Dudley Bard. So
Mhm.
Rupert's son with Francis. Um, from what little's known of him, you know, he's very amiable character,
Mhm.
courageous, intelligent. So I'd sit next to him. I'd want to know more about him. Um,
Nice.
then I think let's get Louise, Rupert's sister, but let's get Anthony Van Dyke, William Dobson, you know, and listen in
Oh,
on their artistic discussions. Um, Masked guests would be Charles the First executioners, which I could potentially unmask. And what would I serve? Well, lots of 17th century dishes, but I would have to have Geoffrey Hudson, Henrietta Maria's dwarf, in a pie. Not to eat, but to burst out of the pie.
I know. Oh gosh. Woo.
Just in
And
case
of course,
anyone was
let's take.
thinking.
Yes. Okay. For those who don't know, understand that, yeah, you could have something in a pie, but you weren't actually going to eat that.
Yes,
They
he would
would just
just
go,
burst out.
surprise. Yes, exactly. Oh,
As he did.
that's fantastic. Mark did not support cannibalism right now.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to cut that bit out, but we're live, aren't we?
Oh, okay. Um, all right, Mark. So are there any things that you have in store for the future? Are you I know you're really busy on the talk circuit and everything, but do you have any plans to write anything else? Any Stuart stuff that you can share? If not, oh, I won't say anything else.
No, for sure. I feel like I've got to be writing something as well. So, but I do want to go back to fiction. We mentioned it earlier, and I
Mhm.
have got some ideas for fiction based on the research that I found in Rupert's life. And I've got another
Yeah,
idea for a non-fiction. But for now, I think I just want a short break
you deserve it. Oh yes, my goodness.
and
Oh,
get to
he
the.
was, yeah, Mark was so busy doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I think all three of us, we
Yeah,
didn't sleep much, and I think, we lost weight and all that stuff. So it it was a bit of everything. Yeah, there we are.
it's been an
Yeah.
amazing adventure, hasn't
So
it, this year so far?
so cool. Really great. Um oh, excuse me. Someone sneezed in the other room, so maybe someone heard that. um right. Well, are there any other things you'd like to say about the Stuart period before we go?
Uh, just let's see more of it. Let's see more of it. Any
Yes.
film directors, TV producers, it's having its day, isn't it? There's a lot more.
Oh yeah.
There's a growing interest, and I think it's just managing to tap into it so that it's presented in a way that helps people get into it that maybe haven't experienced it. And we heard so much about that, didn't we, at the festival?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah. We have had series like The Tudors, The Borgias. Can we get the Stuarts? That would be really nice.
For sure.
That would be brilliant. And then yeah, we'll go from there. But I think if anyone is looking for ideas about potential historical miniseries or whatnot, uh, I think you should pick up Mark's book about Prince Rupert. And yeah, it's all there.
Pick up
So
Barbara Villiers. Yes. So
it's
many
there too.
characters to pick up, isn't
Yes, so many. Oh, wow. And it's so full of drama and intrigue and politics and war and, all the naughty bits too. Yeah.
it?
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Andrea, for
It's been a,
inviting me
a
back on the
pleasure to
show.
have you here.
Love talking
I
to you.
Yeah, lovely talking to you too. Thanks and good luck with everything in the future
Thank you.
with your
Likewise.
writing. Thank you. Well, that was Mark Turnbull, a great friend, a great historian, and you can get your copy of his latest book, Prince Rupert of the Rhine, and it's a beautifully bound book with lovely images, and it's well worth reading. So do pick up your copy from any good bookseller or straight from the publisher Pen and Sword. That's all for me this time. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I look forward to seeing you all again next month when we'll have 2 guests, and that will be Pete Lyman and Dr. Nadine Ackerman, and we'll be talking about Rupert's mother, Elizabeth of Bohemia. So do try to catch that next time. And until next time, don't forget to keep it Stuart. Bye.